Welcome to episode 25 of the Mile 62 podcast. I'm your host, Richard Elkins, coming to you from Austin, Texas. Today I've got a real exciting episode. I'm joined by my trail running friend in Georgia, Stephen Cameron. He's preparing for 2 grueling 100-mile events in the next few months. So stay tuned after the break. From Atlanta, Georgia. How are you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Long day at work, but a good thing is I've been working from home, so I think my time is better organized because I don't have to commute to work. So before I had to commute 1 hour there, 1 hour back. So I'm liking it, working from home. Yeah.
That's my normal commute too. When I go into the office, I'm lucky enough that under normal conditions, I work from home 4 days a week. So over the past 3 months, I think I've been in the office maybe 3 days. But yeah, that 2-second commute from turning off one PC and walking, into another room is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't beat it. Well, hey, I wanted to talk about your running journey and also learn a little bit about trail running in Georgia. How about we start about talking about your background in running? How long you been running? Did you start on the roads? Where did it all begin, and why did you get started?
Well, it's been about 4 years back, maybe just over 4 years, but I went to the doctor and my blood pressure was exceptionally high, and he told me you got to do something. So I done what most people in that situation would do. I decided, hey, I got a pair of tennis shoes. Let me go running. So I went to a local track and I ran as fast as I could for about a quarter mile, and I laid down and I swore I'd never run again. And it was the hardest thing I ever did. But I stayed persistent at it and got a little bit better and slowed down. And I'd done a 5K, a road 5K, and hated every second of it. And it just so happened that somebody that was there said, you ought to do a trail race. And never heard of trail racing before in my life. And I signed up for one, and that was it. That was the start of it. And my first trail race was a half marathon, and it took me, gosh, Richard, I think it took me probably close to 4 hours to do the half marathon. A lot of hills and a lot of climbing, and it was, again, my first trail race, but I had the bug. I started running, and then probably 6 months after that, I'd done my first ultra, which was a 35-miler, and it's been on ever since.
It's kind of my journey as well. I got started back in school because we were putting on boxing matches in school and watch all the Rocky movies. So I started running that way. But I ran on the roads for a long time, and I thought that was the best thing you could do as far as running. Then when I got the chance to live in the Bay Area in California, got introduced to the trails, and I haven't looked back since, But I also learned the hard way, what kind of shoes to wear. And I remember my first 50K, I went out and used a pair of Asics running shoes. And about 10 miles in, I'd lost all the skin on the back of my ankle.
Yep.
So you learn the hard way on how to get going.
Yeah. I just pulled up Ultra Sign Up to look, and my first trail race was actually April 29th of 2017.
Oh, wow.
So just over 3 years I've been running.
Yeah. That's about the same time I started trail racing too, I think. Well, you've got a really great area to go running because I've been following your Strava. You got a lot of hills and trails, and what's it like? You're north of Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I'm about an hour north of Atlanta, and it's different depending on which direction north. Atlanta, if you look at it, it would be almost dead center of the state, not north-south wise, but east-west wise, it would be almost dead center. But the mountains are different. We call them mountains. They wouldn't be mountains compared to like what you would have in Colorado. But the North Georgia mountains are different on both sides of the state. So the Appalachian Trail, if you're familiar with it. It's on the eastern side of the state. And then if you've ever heard of Chattanooga, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Chattanooga, the mountains that are there, they're on the west side of this of Georgia. So North Georgia, Chattanooga, they almost blend together. A lot of the Chattanooga races actually start in Georgia. But yeah, so where I'm at, I'm about an hour from each corner, the north corner of each state, but right where the foothills of the Appalachians start, and it's just, you know, 500, 600 feet up, 600 feet down. There's just up and downs everywhere up here, and then
Wow.
we've got some elevation, but most of the terrain in Georgia is not super long climbs. They're just up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, I've heard that. And isn't there one real famous one, Dragon's Back or something like that?
Yeah,
That you
the dragon spine. Yeah, so
Dragon
if you've ever
Spine.
heard
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Cruel Jewel, it runs on the dragon spine, and there's a couple other races that run it, but it will make a man of you, I promise.
Yeah, I bet. I've also heard that when you said Chattanooga, I know there's a Chattanooga 100. How does that run? Is that run on the mountains there? Is it quite different than on the east side? Or are they real rocky? What's the key?
Yeah, they're not as they're more gradual up and gradual down on the west side. The east side is a lot more rocky, a lot more roots. And again, that's where the Appalachian Trail is starts on that side. It's I don't know. If you were to go to a rock quarry where they had these big, softball sized rocks, just imagine running on rocks like that and then roots all day long. That's what you have
Wow.
over there.
Well, it sounds like it's very technical then. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, really technical. It absolutely is, and it's yeah. I always think people who come here and run those trails for the first time, they probably wouldn't come back. They're that bad.
Wow. Now you said the Appalachian Trail is not too far. Do you ever run on it, or how? What is it? Is it a nice trail to run that section, or?
Yeah, so the Appalachian Trail starts in Georgia, and it's about 45 minutes from my house. And I'll go up there. There's a state park that is called Amicalola State Park. There's a huge waterfall there, but that's the approach to the Appalachian Trail. And so I'll go up there and run and hit the Appalachian Trail, and run sometimes. But it's real nice. The great thing about the Appalachian Trail is it's documented very well. If you do any research at all, you know where you can find water on it at. You know where shelters are at. It's just where there are going to be road crossings, so it's easy to get to, easy to get support on.
Oh,
Yeah, but yeah, great place to run.
yeah. I've read a few books about it, and um, Carl Meltzer ran the FKT on there, and I read his blog about it, and it sounds like it's well marked, and so you can do research on it, but then it's pretty hard to get lost on it. It sounds like so.
It is. It's very well marked and blazed very well. So it's been there a long time, and there are groups that take care of the trail in different parts of the country. Different sections of the trail are maintained by different groups, and then there's the Appalachian Alliance that maintains all of it. But yeah, it is a treasure to have. I promise you.
Wow. What about trail running groups? Is there one close to where you are?
Um, that's a hard one for me to answer, Richard. I kind of keep to myself a lot. I belong to a group called Guts, which is Georgia Ultra Trail Running Society, and there's a bunch of them, but that's the one I belong to, and it's just kind of a membership thing. You pay $35 a year, and the proceeds go to sponsor local trails around, and you get the opportunity to do trail maintenance, and they put on some runs throughout the year, and I've done a few of those, but I like to pay my membership whether I run with the group or not. But again, most of the runs that I do, because of where I'm located at, I do by myself.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I belong to a few groups, but I live in a far suburb, and it's over an hour, hour and a half to get down where they like to run. So I don't join them
Right.
very often. Yeah. But one thing I did do is I got my license plates changed over. They have a trail running license plate in Texas now, and part of that money goes to the state for parks. So that's pretty neat. It's got a mountain biker and a trail runner on it. So I guess that's one way I give back.
There you
To
go. Exactly.
yeah. But I've been reading and following you. You've been preparing for the Georgia Jewel and also the No Business 100. Are they still on the docket, or are they been thinking about canceling? Because I know a lot of my races have been canceled. My upcoming races.
Yeah, over the past week, both of the races have sent out emails saying that, almost like they're preparing you for the worst, but at this minute, they're both still on, and they're putting out information on how they're going to handle the social distancing aspect of it. But right now, they're both still on. So fingers crossed that both of them still happen.
Wow. Yeah, we have two race directors in Texas, and they've been kind of dueling. One of them has been doing the races and finding a way to do it, and the other one has canceled all of them. And the one that's canceled them all has been saying that he's just being honest when he gets the permits, because they ask him to do certain things, and he said there's no way we can do that. So yeah,
Right.
it's been real tough for the race directors. The Georgia Jewel, I was looking it up. That it's in Dalton, Georgia. Is that close to where you are?
I am 45 minutes from Dalton, where the race will start at. I can leave my house and be there in 45 minutes. So
Oh wow.
Dalton's a real small town, North Georgia, right on the interstate, and it's really easy for me to get to. And I'm actually going up there with a friend this weekend. We're gonna meet up there Friday night at 7 o'clock and do 12 hours. So we're gonna do a night run on it just to have the experience before going into it.
Oh, that's great. So is it a state park? They allow you to go out there and run at night, or?
It's not a state park. It's
Oh,
on
okay.
what's called the Pinhoti Trail, and the Pinhoti Trail actually goes through Alabama and Georgia. I believe it's 380 miles long. It may be a little bit longer than that, but yeah, it's just um, honestly don't know who owns that trail, but it's called the Pinhoti Trail, and yeah, it goes
Wow.
all the way from Lower Alabama all the way through Georgia.
Wow. I guess that's related to the Penhoti 100. So part of that maybe
Yeah, the
on that
Pinhoti
race too.
100 is in Alabama on the lower portion of the Pinhoti Trail. There's actually three big races that are held on the Pinhoti Trail, and if you do all three of them in a calendar year, you can do what they call the Pinhoti Slam,
Oh
and
wow.
so yeah, you get an extra large belt buckle when you complete all three of them in a year.
Wow. Well, the Georgia Jewel. Tell me a little bit about the race. Is it a loop course, or is it point to point? What kind of
So
race is it?
the Georgia Jewel is an out and back for the 100 miler. You start at the convention center in Dalton, Georgia. It goes through behind a subdivision that's really close to the convention center, and then dumps onto the trail. So there's about a mile and a half, 2 miles before you get to the trail, and you get on the Pinhoti and you go, oh, just up and down, up and down, up and down. You do a couple creek crossings, but you go about 35 miles one direction, and then you get to a horse park, and the horse park is I guess we'll call it the other end, but on that end of it, there are some loop trails too. So there are two separate loops that you do two times each, and then you turn around and you go back to the convention center. There's three or four mountains that you go up and down both sides of through it. So in 100 miles, you get roughly about 12,000 foot of elevation out of it,
Wow.
um, and there's uh, there's sections of it that we call the rock garden, and you can imagine what that is. But that's that's the worst part of it. The rest of it is just rocky.
Yeah, the rocks just grow out of the ground. Yeah, I've been through some of those. Those out and backs are interesting because you can see the leaders coming back towards you at one point in the race, and uh, it makes it kind of exciting if if it's you can see what's going on and people coming back, say hello to
Right.
friends. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
have you
This year,
run that course? Have you run that course any shorter distances before? Or?
well, the first ultra I ever done was the 35 miler at the Georgia Jewel. And so that was back in
Oh, okay.
2017, and I'd done the 35 miler there. And then in 2018, I went back to do the 50 miler, and that was a heartbreaker for me. I got 40 miles into it. I ran through an aid station and didn't refuel, didn't get any water. I was trying for a specific time on that finish, and went about another 5 or 6 miles uphill all the way, and got to an aid station, and had been out of water for about 45 minutes, and sat down, got sick, and just called it a day right then and there. And the sad thing was, an hour later, after drinking some water and eating a little bit, I felt fine, but I I got a DNF on it, and got up the next morning, went back and watched the 100 milers come in, and turned around and signed up for my first 100. So that DNF that DNF had me, yeah, it kind of rocked me a little bit, but I never gave up. I just decided that I enjoyed the run, and so I still kept at it. Just made bigger goals.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. I mean, I've done that before, where I'll just sit in an aid station, and usually, after a while, the key thing is you got to have time for the cutoff. I was in a situation in Javelina 100 where my lower back had a problem, but I did not. I had only enough time to do the last loop, so sitting there for a while, I had to DNF. But I had learned that from others that it's tough to do when you're in that situation, but to just try to stay there. It seems like a long time, but it may not be. It may not actually be so long. You're
Right,
tired, and just sit there and see if you can come out of it. Especially if you got a bad stomach. I've had that. What I try to do sometimes is I'll take the food, and I don't stay in the aid station, and I just try to eat it slowly, because I found if I eat too fast, sometimes that'll make me feel sick. So just you kind of learn and go. But I've had some DNFs too, and um, it's tough because you always look back at them and you say, well, what could I've done different? And
right.
one time I DNF'd just because I got so spooked. I was in a night race, and had so many wild boars, yelling and echoing in the valley. And I saw a couple of rattlesnakes, and it was a 2-loop course. And after one loop, I was like, man, I don't want to go through that again, because I was running by myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, you learn about those. Well, that sounds like an exciting race. I've heard about that one before. So you have that one on September 18th, and then you have the No Business 100. It's what, like a month later?
Yeah, it's on October 16th, so 28 days later.
Oh
And
wow.
so those will
Well, you
those will be my first
that's gonna be
two
challenging.
100s, and they're that close together. And it wasn't meant to be that way. I actually last year was training to do No Business 100, and I'll say I overtrained like crazy. And the closer I got to October, it the worse my running got. And I mean, I had a plan, and if my plan called for 25 miles, I ran 25 miles no matter what. And if the next day I was supposed to do 20 miles, I ran 20 miles. And I I really got where I hated going outside every day to run. And this year so what I ended up doing was talking to the race director and saying, hey, look, I'll come up there and volunteer if you'll let me run it next year. And so he was like, absolutely, let's do that. So I went up there and volunteered for the race. And I've done a couple training runs up there for that race too. So it's a beautiful 100-mile loop course, and it goes through Kentucky and Tennessee both, and it's just one loop. But
Oh wow.
so that one's going to happen. And then this year, somebody kind of just messing with me said, you ought to do the Georgia Jewel 100. And I kind of took it as a challenge and said, yep, you know what? That was my first ultra ever. I'm going to go back there and I'll do the 100 there. And my plan has been to train for Georgia Jewel and just be
Uh-huh.
ready for it and not overtrain. And then after that, then I'll just recover until no business and not try to do any hard running. Just do some small runs and make sure my legs are back in shape and go into it, well enough to finish it.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, because the lifetime of miles is what really counts.
Yeah.
What you do between those two races is not going to make much difference. The best thing to do is recover. Is the Georgia Jewel in your mind a tougher race than No Business? Is it? What's the elevation on No Business 100?
Yeah, both of them have an elevation of around 12,000 feet.
Okay.
The no business course though has they don't have the rocks, so they're course wise. No business is a lot prettier course than Georgia Jewel. It's also in October, so it's a lot cooler. Georgia Jewel is in September, and in Georgia, September is still summertime. So it is the last 3 years I've been on the Georgia Jewel course for either volunteer. Last year I swept the last 18 miles of the course at the Georgia Jewel, and then the previous 2 years I ran it, but it's been in the mid to upper 90s all 3 times. So it's still summertime, and no business 100 last year when I was up there for it volunteering. I was at the mile 82 aid station, and we had fires going and heat tents going because it was so cold up there. So just
Oh wow.
almost two different races altogether. Terrain's different. There's a lot of elevation on both of them, but uh, no business is a really really pretty course, and Georgia Jewel is it's my home state, one of my home state courses, but it's not that pretty of a trail to run on. It just beats you up. So yeah, I think if I can finish Georgia Jewel, I'll definitely finish no business.
Oh, that's great. When you mentioned sweeping, that's one thing I've always wanted to do. Do you just go after the cutoff time and see if anybody needs help or are you clearing the markers also, or
Yeah,
how
yeah,
does that
you
work?
do.
Yeah.
So the way we done it last year for this particular race, we started 18 miles out, which is and you start about the time that the last runner should be through that station or that aid station where we started at, and you try to make sure you don't pass them. If you pass them, then they get dropped from the race. So there was 4 or 5 people still on the course, and me and 2 other people were just pulling all the all the flags up, and you know, picking up trash along the way, but and then encouraging the people that were still struggling to make it to the finish line. So the great thing with it is you're not busting your butt running it because you've got those people that are still out there on the course too. So you stay behind them. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just to make sure that everybody's off the course and you get all the trail markings off. And the great thing is most races that use sweepers or volunteers, they give either discounts or free races in the future. So yeah, it worked out really well for me. I got a nice discount for this year's Georgia Jewel by doing that.
Oh, that's great. I plan to do that. It sounds like a lot of fun. Um, and I remember you mentioned that on the No Business 100, you plan to get a tattoo after the race. Is that right? You still gonna do
Yeah,
that?
so still gonna do it. And last year that would have been my first 100, so it would have been. I guess that was the purpose of me getting. That's why I wanted that tattoo, was it would be my first 100. But I still like their emblem that they have, and I still want it. So it's still going to be my first tattoo when I finish it.
Ah, that's great. I was thinking, in trail racing over Texas, one of the big race directors here, they've got a neat emblem also, and they've got a deal where if you get the tattoo, you get one free race every year.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
It's advertising for them. So every once in a while, you'll see somebody on the back of their cap. They got the big trail racing over Texas emblem. But I was
Nice.
thinking about that when you mentioned that. Yeah. Um, well, good. That's good stuff. What about gear? What kind of gear do you use? Like for shoes? What's your go-to shoe for running on the trails these days?
I Over the past couple of years, I've been running in ultra temps. I started out
Okay.
using Lone Peaks, and every time I would run uh, water crossings with the Lone Peaks, the soles would slip and they would just bunch up in my toes, and I didn't like it at all because every up here where we run at, we've got hills and water, hills and water. So you're going to get wet, and they would slip and slip. And then somebody suggested, buy some of this rubber contact glue to put inside of it, and that would prevent them from slipping. So I tried that, and it worked one or two times, and then they started slipping again. And then also I found that this bottom of the shoes on the Lone Peaks, they're a little bit softer than the Temps are. The Temps have a little bit stiffer bottom, and running on
Yeah.
rock, it makes a huge difference. So I kind of went to the Temps, and I've been running in them ever since, and I like them. I kind of experimented with a pair of Topos, and I like the way they felt, but over about 20 miles, every time I run in them, they would start being, hurting my toes. So I went back to the Temps again, and that's what I'm running in. I actually ordered a pair of Olympus after listening to your last podcast, the fours. I found a pair of those and ordered those. They'll be here Monday, so not in time for this
Oh,
weekend's
great.
run, but I'm interested in trying those out and see how they work for me.
I think you'll like them a lot. They're when you first run them, they're a little bit heavier than you're probably going to be used to. It took me a little getting used to it, but after I ran them for a while, that's all I run. I even use them on the road now. I use
Yeah,
my older ones on the road, and I got interested in it because I also ran in Lone Peaks. I still do sometimes if it's a short run, but what I found with the Lone Peaks is it's easy to get pinched by rocks on the side, and
right.
I don't like that. And the Temps, I was using Temps for years. I like the older version better. The newer version is comfortable, but I had a situation where it was started squeaking. Every time I walked, it was making a squeaking noise, and my nephew had the same issue. And I don't know if it was something that they have corrected or what, but I was reading that everyone that was sponsored by Ultra and the UTMB and one other big race like Hard Rock, they're all using Olympus. And I was thinking, I'm a big runner, I'm about 195, and I was like, well, I need more padding, and Hoka's were a little bit too narrow for me, so I tried the Olympus, and I really like it because it's got the same foot box as the Temp,
Right.
and so I've been real happy with it. It
Yeah,
wears pretty well. Yeah, yeah.
that squeak is definitely not something with just you. I have that squeak as well, and it absolutely drives me crazy. And it doesn't start out that way. You get 15 miles in on a run, and all of a sudden the squeak starts, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And I was in a real hot race, and I thought, well, maybe it's this, the shoe was wet from sweat, and I was like, maybe it's just wet. But then it wouldn't go away. And my older Temps, they're a little bit heavier, thicker sole. I never had that issue. I still have some of those,
Yep.
and also I found that the Temp sole, they shrank it a little bit where it's almost there's not much difference between the Lone Peak and the Temp now, in my opinion. So, anyways, I jumped to the Olympus, and I've been real happy with it. My brother has tried those Topos too. He likes them. But he mostly wears uh he wears Ultra, but he's gotten real big into he's wearing the Hokas. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, very interesting. What about like hydration pack? Are you using hydration pack? Are you carrying bottles, or what's your plan for the hundreds?
Well, I've done the experiments with hydration packs. I've tried everything, and I used Orange Mud ones for a while, and then I went to Ultra Spires for a while. And what I found that I really like, there is a company called Naked Innovation, and I
Oh,
bought a
okay.
running belt by them, and it's really just a big old piece of mesh that goes around your waist, and it's got three pockets that go all the way around, and I can put salt flask in there. And then I found out that they make a vest as well. So the vest is one big pocket on the back and then two pockets on the front, and it's just mesh. And so I put salt flask in the front, and I can put food and wet wipes and all that in the back, and it's just really easy to get stuff in and out of, and I love it, and that's what I'm going to run in. And the cool thing is the way the aid stations are set up. The farthest one is like 10 miles, so I could really just use two salt flasks around my waist and probably be okay. But I plan on running with the vest and having two 500 milliliter salt flasks in the front, and then another spare in the back, and then just refilling along the way, every aid station.
That sounds like a good plan. I have to check that out. I haven't heard of them. That sounds pretty neat
Yeah,
because
they're
I've been looking
they
for something more simple. Yeah.
it's really, and they're really simple, and they're designed to fit extremely tight. And you put stuff in them. They breathe really well. I wear them without a shirt a lot, and they breathe exceptionally well. Um, Water, if you sweat just comes straight through them, and stuff doesn't bounce at all. There is no bouncing, but because they fit that tight, and like I said, it's just really tight mesh, and I I think it's the greatest thing I've ever worn. Hydration vest wise, it looks funny. It looks like I got man boobs when I'm out there on the trail where the bottles sit at and everything. But I like the vest a lot.
Yeah, all the vests make me look that way.
Yeah.
I have to check that out. I made a note because I've got a waist belt that I can put my phone and one bottle in, and then my next jump is my big hydration vest, and I really need something in between. So I'll check that out.
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
send you a link to their website and let you look at it. But what I will tell you with the belt and the vest both is they tend to be undersized. So
okay.
if they say you need, I don't know, a size 10, then I would get a size 12. Um,
Okay.
every
That's good to
every
know.
time I've ordered something from the first belt and the first vest, both of them were really small on me. So I ordered larger sizes, and it just so happens over the past year and a half, I've slimmed down enough where I can go back and use the smaller ones that I had.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I'll definitely check that out. That sounds very interesting. Um, what's your nutrition plan for the 100 milers? Are you taking stuff with you, or you just eat what's at the aid station? You're a gel person, or you like to eat the real food, or what's your plan?
Not a gel, yeah, I'm not a gel person at all, and yeah, listening to different people talk about what they do for races for hydration and experimenting over time, I finally hit what I think works well for me. Um, I use I'll take like two flasks. One flask has water in it, and the other flask has BCAA mix, and so branched chain amino acid mix, and it's
Uh-huh.
a little sweet tasting, a little flavored, but it's not heavy. So and it has electrolytes in it, and to me that works out well. And so that's what I'll do for hydration, and then for food. I don't do gels. I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I like trail mix, and yeah, so it'll be real food the whole time.
Oh, okay. Well, usually you'll get a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at the aid stations. I'm the same
Yeah,
way. I don't like gels too much. I sometimes I'll use the Goo Chews or Cliff Chews, whatever's available, and I'll take some with me. But I found that the second half of the race, especially when at nighttime, I like to eat real food. Maybe some
yep,
ramen noodles or mashed potatoes, whatever they have. Unfortunately, I've heard that all that stuff is going away, at least for the fall. So it's all prepackaged food. So
right.
gonna have to experiment on what how to do things. Yeah, I've been listening to the race directors, and they said that's one thing for sure, that as they get started, especially in the fall, maybe the spring, that there won't be any more stew or mashed potatoes or things that they cook on the spot. So, which is unfortunate,
Well,
but yeah.
it, it is, but we go out and we trail run or run these long races, and we adapt as we go. And I think if there's any group of people that can adapt to the changes that are going to happen with racing, we're the right ones for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it'll toss it up, make it a little more challenging, but that's fine. That's what we're in for it. How's your cross training go? I remember when I spoke with you last, you were looking at getting a bike. I think for your wife or your daughter. Or, are you riding a bike,
Yep.
any?
I haven't been riding. I've got a road bike and a mountain bike both, and I haven't been riding either one of them. I keep telling myself I need to get out there and do it, but when you can run, you run, and that's that's kind of where I'm at right now. If I'm going to go outside, then I'm going to run, and I've started hiking a lot. So, I might run 10 miles today, and then tomorrow I'll go hike 8 miles, and make both of them doing a lot of elevation. So I'll go out every day with a minimum. My goal is 1,000 foot every day of elevation. So I do that whether I'm running or hiking, and then my longer runs generally are between 3,000 and 5,000 foot of elevation. But yeah, I bought after you and I had a conversation a while back, and you were talking about rucking, and I bought a 20-pound. I bought a ruck with a 20-pound weight in it, and I'll take it out and do some hikes with it. And dude, let me tell you what, that is a workout. And
Yeah, it is. It
then
is. I think
then
that's a real good strategy. Yeah.
leg workouts. I do a lot of leg lifts, or leg raises and squats, and then I do a lot of core work. And both of those are kind of twice a week for each one of them, and that's what I've been doing, trying to get prepared.
Well, I think that's a good strategy. The core strength is real important, especially for the hundreds. And with that elevation that you got out there, that I'm sure you can really feel the rucks. Because when I'm rucking, I'm pretty much rucking on the flat trails because we don't have much hills out here. But if you're getting in 1,000 feet and rucking, boy, that's a good workout.
Yeah, the first time I used it, I took it to a local trail that's about right at 5 miles and 1,600 foot of elevation on it, and it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. So it's up about 400 feet, down 400 feet, up 400 feet, down 400 feet. I'm like, this can't be too bad carrying a 20-pound ruck. I thought I was going to die.
Hey, it happens to all of us. When I first started, I was the same way. And I even started rucking a while, and I had a race, and then I stopped rucking for probably 2 months, and then I felt like I had to start all over again. And I've been really at it for like the last few months, and I just bought a 30-pound plate. I haven't used it yet because that's that karma. My foot started hurt. I banged up my foot, and I think I was rucking too much. So my 30-pound plate is waiting for me to kick it up once
Yeah.
I get ready for it. But yeah, it's a super workout, and I've been reading a lot about the Goruck website and different workouts you can do. And the crazy thing is, I see people, they'll put the Goruck pack on, and then they'll grab a sand bag too and take it with them. So I was reading one the other day, and I was like, man, I'm not worthy of reading these things.
Right.
These guys have really got a serious workout. And some of them are putting the 45-pound plate in the pack. It's like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Anyways,
it wears a whole. I have a weighted vest that I use sometimes too. But the interesting thing is with a rug, the weight is all on the back, and so it's different than distributing it across the front and the back. So I found that really neat so far.
yeah, and you can feel it on your shoulders too, because it's just distributed in two places on your shoulders. So
Right. Yep.
yeah. Well, um, I know the next thing I wanted to talk about was your podcast, the Social Run podcast. How is that going for you?
Going really well. I am really enjoying it, and one thing I'll tell you, Richard, that I find really funny is I set it up as an interview platform, so there really is no me talking by myself at all. It's always trying to talk to someone. And what I have found is I want to balance it out. So if I talk to a woman one show, I want to talk to a man the next one, and just keep it balanced that way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a 1-to-1. It could be a 2-to-2 or something like that. Men don't want to talk. I seem to be able to find the women that really want to talk about what they're doing with running, but men are a little bit bashful, and they don't like the way they sound. Nah, I really like what you're doing, but I don't like the way I sound. So appreciate you asking me though. So yeah, that's
That's
getting to be a
interesting.
little struggle, and my platform is people that social media. I do Instagram and Twitter. Those are the only two platforms I use. So those are the people that I reach out to, and yeah. That being said, though, I'm still doing it and still having a lot of fun with it, and really, really hearing a lot of cool stories about people that you just don't see on a small tweet or a short post on Instagram. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm starting to do more interviews, whereas previously it was just myself talking. And I was looking at my listenership, and it's about 90% men, and I was thinking to myself, well, I definitely need to interview more ladies. And after what you just said, it sounds like it'd be more exciting as well. So
Well,
Yeah.
I hate to say it because I'm a 50-year-old guy, so I been a man my whole life, and men are men, but women are a lot tougher than men are. They when it comes to races, women are just a lot tougher than men are, and their stories are really good too.
Oh no, that's for sure. And you look at some of these ladies out there, like uh, um, Camille and Courtney DeWalter. It's amazing. They're winning races outright against the men.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
some super athletes out there. Um,
I think weird things too, things that you really won't don't think about on a trail. If you and I are out there running on a trail and we need to go to the bathroom, we're going to go to the bathroom. That's just that. But you think women, when they're on the trail, they have a little bit more. Um, they need a little bit more privacy than you and I do, and things are just different for them on the trail. And I don't know. I think they have a lot more challenges than we do, but they're kicking the challenges butt and still winning races too.
yeah, no, that's for sure. It's very inspiring. Um, I was reading something the other day about this. You follow Sean Blanton and the race director for GDR. That he's gotten a
Yeah,
bunch of trouble. And what's the talk around there? Is it because I noticed that Western States pulled the golden ticket race from GDR for this. You know,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, he does a lot of races around here, and he's from it, or he lives in Atlanta, and I've done a lot of his races, and I was actually going to do GDR this year and decided not to do it. I got in through the lottery, but I think you've probably heard the same thing that we hear. I hate to say it. I mean, the dude screwed himself. I would never run another one of his races ever again, just because of the things that I've heard about him. And I ran with a friend of mine a couple of weekends ago, and she told me things that had happened, with her, and I'm like, yeah, that was enough to just turn me off completely. And I hate it. I mean, it really tarnishes the race community, because a race director is a face to a community, and he was just a big stain on it, and I really hate
Yeah,
it. But
I think.
um, for me and a lot of other people I know, we'll never do another race, where he's a director of.
Yeah, I think he's lost a lot of people's trust. I was reading. I
Yep.
was reading there was a big article on Marathon Investigations about it. Fortunately, um, I was going to ask you: have you ever? Because I'm a big fan of the Barclays. Have you ever? How far is Frozen Head State Park from where you live? I think it's in
Uh,
Wartburg, Tennessee.
yeah, it's about 5 hours from me, so it's not far. But I've never been there. It's interesting. I've never had the desire to run that course. A lot of people, they have the Barkley Marathon, which everybody is familiar with, and then they have a 50K called the Barkley Classics that they do every year. And despite what people tell you, the Classics isn't run on the same path that the Barkley is run on. So
Oh, really?
they're
I
a
didn't know
little,
that.
you know,
Yeah.
still at the same park, but the Barkley itself doesn't stay on the trail. The Barkley Classic stays on the trails. Um, but it's pretty kind of the similar trails as we have here. They're up and they're down. They're up and they're down, and they are really rocky and a lot of brush to go through. But yeah, I've never really wanted to do that race. My next big one that I have is actually in Arizona in May, I hope. So a friend of mine mentioned it to me, and I had to finish my first 100 first as a qualifier for it. But there's a race coming up called
Cocodona?
Cocodona 250.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cocodona 250. So I've registered for it, and the race director has gotten back to me and said, when you finish your 100, get back with me. And my place is still there, still holding. So I'm hoping that everything goes off really well for it, because I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I spied that one out when he first came up with that idea, and um, our Avipa running does a really excellent job with the races. I mean, I can't say enough about Javelina, so I'm sure that will be a really neat race, and it sounds
Yeah,
real exciting.
it does.
Because you basically crossing in Arizona, and you going through a bunch of small towns with a bunch of history and everything. I think that would be really neat. So.
Yeah, and the way they designed the course is one for the runner gets to see a lot of really cool stuff. And then if you're going to have support, your crew, they get to see a lot of cool stuff as well. So I thought they'd done a really good job with the way they laid the course out.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's going to be great. I know I was going to ask you about the Garmin situation, because your background, you're information systems engineer, right? I think you
Yep.
mentioned you. Think about this Garmin. I was reading online. They released more information, but it looks like they they got attacked by somebody and they encrypted all of their software, and it looks like they're trying to rebuild it all. Because I don't know if you're using Garmin, but on mine, we lost a sync connection for about 4 days with Strava, and now it's working, but their other features are not working. Their website's still down. So it looks like I'm just speculating, but it looks like they didn't pay the $10 million ransom, and they're trying to rebuild it all.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I use Garmin as well, and I'm on my third Garmin watch now, and I have a Phoenix 6 that I use, and I think the attack was done very smartly, if you want to call somebody who does that smart. But they done it late on a Thursday, and
Oh,
so you look at a company trying to recover from it. People work on Fridays and then they're off on the weekends, and they're not going to want to be there on the weekend. So I think it was planned very, very well from people who do that kind of stuff. But I thought that Garmin reached out to a third party to pay it, and I haven't heard about them rebuilding it. But when I heard that they were going to pay the ransom for the ransomware, if you will, my first thought was, wow, you give somebody $10 million, there is nothing that would prevent them from turning around 2 days later and doing the same thing to you again.
yeah, and
So
it's bad for other companies too. I hadn't heard that. Because they haven't been very transparent. They haven't sent any emails explaining the situation. It's just everything is third party media you read about.
yeah,
But
and that's
yeah,
been very disappointing because they made one post on Twitter saying that they put out a FAQ that had like 3 or 4 questions on it, and it was just very vague. But I my thought personally was, Richard, if you are a company like that, millions of people that use their watches and their devices, if they come out public with it, I just can't help but think to myself how many people would have said, "Hey, let's help Garmin out, and I'll give $10 if you'll give $10." And it wouldn't have taken a whole lot of people. They could have raised the money to pay the ransom for Garmin.
yeah, there's got to be at least 10 million users. That's $1 a piece.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I use a Phoenix 6 too, and it's synced today fine, but I was looking because we have a kind of a competitive group with some family members, and it's not working. And I noticed that some of the features on their website, I went to the Garmin website and it had a 401 error. I was like, wow, it looks like they're still trying to rebuild things.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's what a
yeah.
mess.
They
Yeah.
they they have done a poor job being transparent about it. I think, sadly, I think they should have handled that differently. But yeah,
Yeah, I think so too, and I think most of the people I've been reading about feels the same way. Well, hey,
yeah.
I appreciate you being on the podcast, and start to wrap it up. But before we go, let's hear one dad joke. You have one on mind you can throw at?
This one might be a little visual for you, but I heard this one yesterday and told it to my girls today. Um, how does a llama get out of a tree?
No, I don't know.
He first leaps, then he lands.
Thank you for listening to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you the best on your running and the upcoming days and weekend. And if you have any feedback on my podcast, please send me an email. It's runnerrwe@gmail.com. I welcome suggestion, feedback. If you're interested to join me on a future podcast to talk about running, please drop me a line. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find me by searching at Runner RWE. Have a good week.